Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing some cards which feature gel plate and brayered backgrounds along with this adorable new stamp set from Hutson.com. This is a brand new stamp set for their Summer of Stamping 2022, and it is a collaboration between Mama Elephant and the Essentials by Ellen line. There are coordinating dies available, and I'm going to be working with this beautiful soft color palette today to create my cards. Now I'm starting out with a bunch of the images from the Ice Cream Stand stamp set and arranging them onto my mini Misty. Once I have them kind of arranged on the cardstock, I'm going to use the lid of the mini Misty to pick up those images, and I'm going to stamp them in some Gina K Obsidian Amalgam ink. Now, I really love this ink because it is not only Copic friendly, but if I decided to watercolor with it, or if I want to use some colored pencils with Gamsol, this ink is safe for all of those techniques. And not only that, it gives a really nice, rich black outline and it stamps sentiments great. So it's just kind of one of my go-to black inks. Now, once I have the images stamped onto the cardstock, I'm going to take the coordinating dies and line them up, and I'm going to hold them in place with some removable tape. And once I have my dies in place, I can go ahead and take this and run it through my Gemini Junior to die cut the images, and I will have these images all ready to go. Now, I wanted to create some cards that didn't involve a ton of kind of intricate coloring or difficult coloring. I just kind of wanted to create colorful backgrounds for these images today. So I did a little bit of coloring on today's card, but I tried to keep it really simple. But I'm really going to bring in a punch of color using some gel plate printed backgrounds. Now this is the Gelli Arts gel plate. This is the 5x7 size. It comes with these two backer sheets. I'm going to remove those, and I'm actually going to hold it in place on the lid of my Misty. Now if I put it onto my work surface, I can't pick it up and move it around, but if I adhere it to the lid of my Misty, or if I lay it on the lid of my Misty, I can pick up my Misty and kind of move that around if I want to while I'm creating. Now I have the three colors of inks that I'll be using for my inked blends or my inked backgrounds here, and that includes the Concord and Ninth Grapefruit ink, the Catherine Pooler Apricot ink, and then the Concord and Ninth Ballet slipper. And I'm starting with a small brayer here, and I picked up some of that grapefruit ink and just laid a small stripe of it onto the lower right-hand corner of my gel plate. Now, when you do this, you don't want to go back and forth with your brayer. You want to go and kind of sweep across the ink pad and pick it up, and then sweep across the ink pad again so that you make sure you get good coverage across the entire diameter of the brayer. Now, between the colors, I am cleaning off my brayer with a microfiber cloth. And once I have the ink laid down on the gel plate, I'm going to go over it just a couple little swipes with my brayer here. And then I'm going to take some smooth white cardstock, lay it onto my gel plate and press it. And then I'm going to take a call from work. And then I am going to pick that up. And I have a beautiful background. Now, I love the way these colors play together. I think they're so beautiful. And while I have my gel plate out, I'm going to experiment with some more backgrounds. I'm going to create several backgrounds, and then I'll have them ready to go. So once again, just picking some ink up from each of the different colors and just laying it onto the gel plate. I'm going to clean that off, and then I'm going to go over all of those inks and kind of blend them together with some soft swipes of my brayer across the surface. Now, if you get a lot of bubbling in your ink when you lay it down, it doesn't really bother me, but it could be that you need to kind of swipe across that ink on the gel plate with the brayer a little bit more. So once again, just taking my smooth white cardstock, laying it onto my jelly plate, pressing it down, and then picking it up. Look how gorgeous that is. I absolutely love it. Now you can also take the ink pads and apply them directly to the gel plate, which is what I'm doing here. Now I started out by going darkest to lightest, and then it occurred to me that it's probably better to go lightest to darkest, but I didn't contaminate any of my ink pads, so don't worry. And then I'm taking my brayer and kind of going over the surface to smooth out those inks, blend them together a little bit. Then I'll bring in some smooth white cardstock, lay that on the Gelli plate, press it down, and pick it up, and I have a gorgeous background. Now, one thing I do want to say is that this is one of those techniques where no two backgrounds are the same. So even though I'm kind of using the same techniques in all of these, none of my backgrounds were exactly alike, and I'm okay with that. I think that they are absolutely gorgeous. This is kind of a little more abstract look. There are definitely techniques where you can take and do this through a stencil or use a stamp to pick up some of the ink to add some pattern to this background, or you can even add die cuts over the Gelli plate before you add the ink to add a little bit of pattern in there. But I just wanted these really gorgeous blends, and so I just kept it simple for today. And when you apply these inks to the gel plate and then you kind of pick them up with the paper, they do soften a little bit. So you could layer up the ink if you want them a little more intense. Now, if you are using your brayer to blend those inks, you can actually take a scrap piece of paper and brayer that extra ink onto it and then use it for die cuts or something like that. Or you can just grab your brayer and make backgrounds as well. Now, you're going to find that this technique with the brayer is not nearly as smooth as the results that I got with the gel plate, but you can actually see here how much more intense the colors that I'm getting are. So it is a little bit different than a straight brayered background, and it's just kind of something fun that you can play with. Now, another thing that you could do with this gel plate is you could kind of mist it with a little bit of water to get the color moving a little bit more. But there's something about that jelly surface of the gel plate that really does just allow those colors to kind of move and blend together, even with just the brayer. And here's a look at all of the backgrounds that I created in just a few minutes here. So I can die cut these down. I can use them as panels, whatever I want, but I'm going to take a few of those and create cards with them today. And I'm going to take this adorable ice cream stand from the Ice Cream Stand stamp set. This is a part of the Summer of Stamping at ellenhutson.com, and these exclusive collaboration stamp sets are available for a limited time. I'm going to do some simple coloring on this ice cream stand, and you can see I'm using a cut down piece of my Misty Sticky Mat to hold that die cut stamped image in place while I color it. That's just something you can do to kind of hold die cuts in place while you work with them. I love those Misty Sticky Mats. Now, I used the Essential Arches die set from the Essentials by Ellen line to die cut an arch-shaped window in my card front. And now I'm taking this background. Now, this is actually the background that I created with just the straight brayered ink. So you can see it's a little more rough in the background. There's a lot more texture to it. Now, that's not really going to matter because I am taking this Tonic Moonstone Glimmer paste or glitter paste, and I'm spreading it all over this background. And this is inspiration courtesy of my friend Carly T. She does these glitter ink blended backgrounds all the time, and I think they're absolutely beautiful. And this is going to make the background for my shaker window. So I'm just kind of smoothing that all over in a thin layer. And then once I have the glitter paste smoothed over this entire panel, I'm going to take some chunky glitter from Lawn Fawn and sprinkle it on. Now, I wish I would have pinched it with my fingers and kind of sprinkled it over the top, but I didn't do that. So you live and you learn. I'm going to take this little spatula and kind of try to blend it out because I got a big old chunk of it there, and then it didn't want to move because it was stuck in the glitter paste. So I just kind of blended it out, for lack of a better word, with this flexible spatula. And then I'm going to set that panel aside and let it dry while I work on the shaker portion of this card. Now, I'm just going to tell you that the amount of shine you're going to get with this background here, it's not for the faint of heart. But it is truly sprinkled with glitter inspired, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to set that aside to dry, and now I'm taking some double-sided strong tape. This is the Be Creative tape or the score tape, and I'm going around the back side of this panel that I die cut my window in and adding some adhesive. Now I'm going to use this to adhere some acetate behind this panel so that I can create my shaker card window. So once I have the tape in place, I'm going to go ahead and remove the backers, and I'm going to take a piece of acetate. This is the Essentials by Ellen clear plastic, and I'm going to tell you, this stuff is good, and I have even hot foiled on it. It is my favorite acetate of all the acetates in the land. And so I have that adhered in place, and then I'm going to take some foam adhesive and line around the back of this window. Now, when I put the pieces of foam adhesive across the top and the bottom, I'm going to make sure that they butt up against the pieces that are along the side so that nothing that I put into my shaker well or any of my shaker guts will leak out. Now, the Essentials by Ellen Essential Shape Dies cut not only the shape out, but they also cut a frame. And I wanted to inlay that frame into my shaker window, but I wanted to have this really beautiful foiled frame inside of that. So I am using the Essentials by Ellen press plate along with the Spellbinders champagne foil, and I am placing that foil with the pretty side facing my press plate. Then I'm going to add a piece of Concord and 9th white cardstock, 2 heavyweight cardstock shims, and the shim that comes with my foil press. Now my foil press is set to the very highest heat, and I set my timer for about a minute. And once that timer went off, I removed the platform from my base and I ran that through my Gemini Junior to press the foil onto my cardstock. Now this Concord and 9th cardstock foils absolutely beautifully. It is one of my new favorite foiling cardstocks. So once I removed the backer from that, I used the same essential arch die that I used to die cut my window to die cut that panel so I could have this really beautiful gold frame to go around the inside of my shaker window. To give it a little dimension, I die cut that frame 3 more times from some plain white cardstock, and I'm stacking those up using some liquid glue. So once I place the glue on the back of the die cut, I'm going to stack 2 of those together, and I'm going to use my fingers to kind of press the edges together to where they line up nicely. So I have 3 layers of the plain white cardstock, and now I am going to finish off this stack with the gold frame on the top. And once I get that gold frame on the top and get it pressed into place, then I can take some liquid glue, add it to the back of this dimensional frame, and kind of inlay it into my shaker window. Now you can absolutely do this with some gold cardstock if you have that on hand, but I really wanted the gold of this frame to match the gold that I used on the hot foiled sentiment, which you can kind of see there up in the upper right hand corner of my screen. I'm using one of the Essentials by Ellen Way with Words hot foil sentiments here. It is a plate that presses a bunch of sentiments at once, and I made a bunch of them, so I have a ton of foiled sentiment strips ready to go. I just trimmed it down, and then I will add it to my card front. Now, here is a mistake. I left it in because I wanted you to see it. I thought this was dry. It was still a little warped. I should have known better. And I wanted to flatten it out. So I put it inside of a card that I actually made for a women's event at our church and ran that through my die cut machine with no dye. And the glitter paste was not dry. And so I ripped my background. So make sure it's dry if you're gonna do this. But it's not really a big deal because I can hide it with the stamped image that I'm putting on the front of my shaker card. So I'm going to keep rolling with it. I'm going to start adding my shaker guts to this panel here. I'm using some clear seed beads as well as these high supply silver shimmery stars. They're absolutely beautiful. I laid them onto my panel and kind of smoothed them out with the back side of my little ice cream tasting spoon there. And then I removed the backer from the foam adhesive, laid that right over the top of my panel and pressed it down. And now I have my shaker front for my card. Now from here on out, this card is really easy to finish off. I added my ice cream stand with a little bit of foam adhesive. Then I added my sentiment strip along the bottom, once again with some foam adhesive. And as you can see, I cannot stop shaking this very sparkly, wonderful card. And then I added this card front to a card base made from some basil pale rose, or actually there's just a panel of basil pale rose on this A2 size card, just to kind of frame it out. And I took that same Basil Pale Rose cardstock and stamped a sentiment from the ice cream stand stamp set, trimmed it out, and I am just adhering that to the inside of the card. It says, "Enjoy your sweet birthday," and I added one of the little ice creams to that panel or that sentiment strip as well. And that finishes off my first card. Now this has the Brayer background, but I'm going to create 2 more cards featuring the gel plate background. So I am die cutting one of these panels down, and I'm going to use some really simple images. I added very little color to these with some Copic markers. I have my little bunny, or actually this is a kangaroo because it has a pouch, I'm assuming. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I die cut a piece of some iridescent cardstock that I created with the Spellbinders opal foil with a little scalloped edge. And I'm just trimming that down once I add it to my card panel here. And then I'm going to add my kangaroo with some foam adhesive. I have the little sweet sentiment strip, which is also from the Way with Words hot foil plate from the Essentials by Ellen line. And I trimmed down the word "so sweet." I believe this is all one sentiment, but I just trimmed it apart. I added that on with a little foam adhesive. And then I'm going to take this entire panel, pop it up onto a top folding A2 size card base, adhere it down, and finish it off with some sparkling clear sequins on the front of it. And this has that really beautiful soft background, a very simply colored image here from that ice cream stand stamp set. And that is the second card. So let's create one more card with the gel plate background. This one is so simple. I didn't even color the images that I used. I just die cut all of the little individual ice creams from this ice cream stand stamp set. I didn't color them at all. I'm taking that background that I first created with my gel plate, and I'm stamping this sentiment from the ice cream stand stamp set. It says, "Ice cream and friends make everything better." And isn't that the truth? I'm stamping that in the Gina K amalgam ink, and then I'll die cut this using the Essentials by Ellen Essential Rectangles. I'm going to pop up my little ice cream treats onto this card front and add just a little sliver of gold foiled cardstock. It is a scrap from that piece that I created earlier to die cut my arch out of. And I'm just adding the tiniest little strip along the left-hand side just to give it a little something extra because I didn't do any coloring on this card. And then I'm going to trim that off. I'll add this panel to my card base, and I'm going to finish off those ice creams with a little bit of Stickles glitter glue to give it some shine. Now, once the glitter glue dried, I went ahead and went over this with a layer of glossy accents as well, and I added a few sparkling clear sequins to finish this off, and you can't get much easier than this card. But because there's plenty of color and interest on the background, those uncolored images don't feel unfinished. So there you have it, 3 cards featuring some simple backgrounds using the gel plate as well as a brayer. I think these turned out absolutely beautiful. You can make it a little more complex and make it a shaker card like I did with the first card, or these beautiful backgrounds can stand on their own and you can add just some simple colored images to the top and call it good. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. Or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I will have that linked below as well. Over there, you're going to find more still shots, more information, a complete list of supplies, as well as some information on an Instagram hop that's happening today to celebrate this brand new Summer of Stamping release from ellenhutson.com and Mama Elephant. So I hope you'll check that out. Join me over on Instagram for lots of inspiration, prizes, and a lot of eye candy. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these projects and this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. I have a lot coming up for you. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. To subscribe to my channel, go ahead and click the button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.